we've got a little snapshot here that you'll see on your screen. And effectively, this is CommSec's state of the states, and they're ranking each of those states in terms of the best economies and the best performing states. And you can see there, based on the ranking here, that Western Australia is number one. Now, we did predict that. We said that their economic fundamentals are so good and so much better than any other state and territory right now. They've got literally no debt, about $38 billion worth of debt, considering when you're talking about Victoria's peak debt's going to be about $280 billion. It's just chalk and cheese. They're running a surplus, which means that basically they don't have to put any extra pressure on taxes. They've got an energy advantage. They've got a proximity to Asia advantage. And a lot of people got that wrong. And a lot of other commentators said it's a cyclical type of market. And we said, no, we think this has absolutely changed. And have a look at it. It's got the highest number per capita of self-employed and businesses. So it's got a huge number of small businesses, which in these times would normally do quite well. So you're going to also see second highest level of disposable income. So there's a good reason why Western Australia is well positioned. Then you've got Adelaide and you've got Brisbane, Queensland, who are also second position. So if you start to have a look at, you can see we've got economic growth, retail spending, equipment investment, which is business investment. We've got employment growth, construction work, population growth, housing, finance, and dwelling starts. So you can see all the things going on there. Now, again, that's the economic story. Look at just the dwelling starts for WA, 69.4% up. So there is a building boom going on in WA. That is going to increase some supply. So that's where you'll start to see that equilibrium come into play in terms of demand and supply. But the fundamentals for Western Australia, you're probably not going to see this cyclical bounce that we've always seen out of that particular market. The way in which they measure these particular readings, it disadvantages the Northern Territory and it disadvantages the Tasmanian marketplaces just on the sheer size and scale of the other markets in terms of how they do their seasonality and their weightings. You can also see that, say, take for example, Darwin and Northern Territory. They've got a lot of investment going back into there. They've got a new government that's, really trying to stimulate investment and activity and population growth into that market. So that's also good. The reason why Victoria is also sitting at number 4 is purely off the back of the government spending program. This big, massive infrastructure program, it's keeping jobs at a reasonable level. Now, bearing in mind, Victoria has now fallen to the lowest or the highest unemployment rate in the country. That's off the back of also new migrants who are arriving here as well, who are trying to get into the workforce. But we've seen Victoria go from 1 and 2 several years ago, now falling down off the back of the fact that most of their investment is and most of their jobs are being created through government spending. And that government spending is eventually going to fall away as part of that. So let's just do a quick wrap in terms of what we see from a state-by-state point of view. So for the good for New South Wales, relative population growth. The bad is the amount of construction work, dwelling starts, and housing affordability. Construction work and dwelling starts, that's good for lower demand and higher pressure. For Victoria, Bryce?
Well, the good is definitely population, and you think about the multicultural opportunity that exists here. We're getting lots of people wanting to come here, which is good. Construction's been pretty good, the big build, but government's running out of money, Ben, so that's not going to last.
That's right.
The bad is clearly debt. Our daily interest bill is off the charts, and that needs to be addressed. And then that will have a flow-on effect for jobs in terms of if the government's not putting all the infrastructure spend in because they're running out of money, where will those people go?
We've got the highest number of self-employed and small businesses failing in Victoria compared to any other state in Australia.
So they'll probably end up going into residential construction. So Queensland, the good is housing finance. Employment growth, population growth. Who doesn't want to go there for lifestyle, Ben? Their dwelling starts is great, and that has a huge multiplier for the economy. And their general economic growth, as we've just went through before, Ben, equals second. That's pretty good. The bad is business investment or equipment investment is not as great as it could be. And as a result of people jumping over the border, Ben, and paying for prices, that means has a flow-on effect for housing affordability, even if we could say that word, affordability.
Now, we've also spoken about how good Western Australia's construction, surplus budget, low debt, population growth, jobs growth, dwelling starts, housing affordability is their bad. For South Australia, equipment investment strong, housing finance, dwelling starts, general economic growth more broadly, again, supports economic growth in that state. The bad, retail spending and housing affordability. In terms of Tassie, equipment spending and finance, but you had to go pretty hard to find those two as positives. Then the bad is population growth.
And that's important. Population growth is
huge.
always, that's why there's some people who made some money trading that market previously, but investing in the market long term, that's the biggest problem for Hobart.
Very good. Debt levels, economic activity. So government debt levels, again, employment growth, construction, dwelling starts in the Northern Territory, equipment, strong exports, really good strong exports out of there in terms of gas and also protein, so all of their meat exports and so forth, housing affordability and CPI inflation. So inflation's running very, very low in the Northern Territory because the economic activity is softer. A bad is employment story. There's not a lot of jobs going around up there, construction work, population growth, and dwelling starts. So that just gives you a nice little snapshot in terms of what's happening when it comes to that story.